7-7. Welcome in July the 7th. Along with, there he is, the star of the show, Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine, ready to go on this Monday in July after a Independence Day weekend.
Yeah, they're playing tennis. Wimbledon's going on, but we're talking football, baby. And we're getting close. And Denny, I was able to go down and see a 7-on-7 down at Wayne State. I don't know if Jerry told you this, but Jerry's coaching at East Kentwood.
Yeah,
the former King coach, legendary coach, Coach Dante Moore. So they had a 7-on-7 down at Wayne State. You had East Kentwood, who's got a quarterback going to Michigan State, who looked pretty damn good. I mean, he looked like the kid from Texas, just the way he throws the football. Quinn, accurate, smooth. Anyway, that was he was there. Kid from Orchard Lake was there. Orchard Lake St. Mary's team was there. So I was able to see the receiver that Michigan is recruiting. What the hell is his name? Chad Willis. He's a highly touted kid, good-looking player. Orchard Lake's coach, I know Orchard Lake's coach, Jermaine Gonzalez. He played at Michigan. Yeah. I know I'm just jumping in early, starting out, but I figure I'd cover this. And then you had Cass Tech. So, all the athletes they have there, but I'm trying to think who else. Oh, Harper Woods was there. But anyway, it's interesting. I was able to see, I met some of the dudes that were coaching Orchard Lake. One of them, big offensive line coach, he played for Jack Harbaugh at Western Kentucky.
Wow.
Coaching at Orchard Lake with Jermaine Gonzalez. But the kid looked good. I didn't see any Michigan coaches there, but they had a big 7-on-7 thing at Wayne State. It was open to the public. You had to pay $10 to get in, but it was kind of cool. And anyway, you might want to jump in with Jerry and ask him some questions about some of those kids that are on Michigan's radar that were at that 7-on-7.
I talked to Jerry. He was pretty excited about that. He got excited at the one point. He kind of went on. He said, there's this kid that was wearing Ohio State wristbands or Ohio State shoes. He said, but he hasn't committed or anything yet. He said, I don't think these kids should be wearing Ohio State or anybody's stuff until they commit. And he was pretty fired up about it. And I said, well, maybe he went to, no, they shouldn't do that. Not if they're thinking about going somewhere else. They shouldn't be wearing Ohio State gloves or whatever. I don't know do you know what he was talking about?
I understand it. I get it. Okay. Jerry thinks they should. It might hurt their negotiation power if they start wearing, wearing somebody's stuff. Just stay neutral until you get the best offer.
Well, let's talk about some of those best offers. It was somebody calling it a wild weekend. I would agree, a wild weekend in recruiting. You want to look at the schedule with Michigan coming up this year? I'll take a look at the schedule. And then we have the fun and entertaining educational film analysis, always looking at some different player and coming away with something new when it comes to the maize and blue. But what about the recruiting weekend? Michigan, they if you go all the way back, they lost a corner, it appears, in Brody Jennings, who was the first commit for this class in 26, I don't know, a couple of years ago from Florida. But people were pretty uneasy about him right off the bat. And I think it was because he was from Florida, but also his brother, committed somewhere and he went elsewhere. People, as soon as he committed, people were like, nah, that's not going to stick. And then it didn't stick, but it stuck for a long time. And we'll see. He flipped to the U. And then you got to Saturday, where Michigan had Dorian Barney, a corner out of Georgia, and he picked Michigan. I watched the presentation that he had, the reveal, and I went from thinking it was the worst reveal to later I saw another angle and I thought it was the best reveal. Scar, what happened is, so they had a camera, I don't know whose camera it was, showing it, and his mom said a little something about her son, and then the dad stood up and he had something to say. There were about 10, 15 people. It looked like, the backdrop, it was the side of the garage. And then Dorian was like, all right, well, let's get this going. And he stood up and he walked off. And then everybody followed him, and the camera was just showing the side of the garage. And then after like 5 minutes, whoever it was, it just said, Barney picks Michigan. And that was it. It was not that hot. But what he did is he took his family and friends all there. And, you got your garage opener. He stood everyone out in front of the garage, and I saw the different angle, and he pushed the garage up, and the garage comes up, and there's nothing but Michigan stuff inside the garage. Cool. What a great reveal. I thought, man, nice job. Now, it shows you, it depends on what you're watching there. It went from the worst, and then later when I saw it, and ended up being the best. But that was a good one for Michigan. When they lost one, they were able to get one with the DB Dorian Barney, a corner from Georgia. So that was good for him.
Denny, we talked about it. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of momentum. Sharon Moore has surrounded himself with good recruiters. You got to have guys that can coach, but you got to have guys that can recruit. And I think that's something Jim learned early on at Michigan. He had guys that could coach. He didn't have guys that could always recruit. But Sharon Moore, I don't think he has any dead weight from a position coach that can't get in there and talk to parents, talk to the kid, and be an influence and close deals. So we Sean McGee, he's got a solid foundation for recruiting, and I think players are feeling comfortable. They're liking the direction we're going. And I looked at a couple guys on film, Denny. I looked at Travis Johnson, the big, tall receiver.
Yeah.
Big, good-looking, athletic kid. Sharon Moore definitely wants height. And he could be a Braylon Edwards type kid, man. It's what he is. I see a big, tall, athletic kid. Looked like a tough kid, and he could be something special. We'll see how he develops. I took a look at Julian Walker. I saw him on film. Yeah. Big edge player, big defensive. He looks a lot like that other kid we got committed last week. They look. He Meadows. Looks like a Meadows. They're very similar type kids. They're big, tall, rangy. You got 6'5", 6'6", 220, whatever. They got all the stuff you can't coach: height, speed, athleticism, toughness. Raw kid. Again, 2 years away from needing them. Needs the weight room, but he could be a Derek Moore type kid. When I look at him, you say, okay, is he Derek Moore? That's kind of what I'm seeing there. But Denny, the big thing that I think we're seeing, Michigan is recruiting really good receivers. We're getting really good receivers. We got Chip in. Sharon was part of 3 championships that played a hell of a lot of tight ends. But we're recruiting receivers. The receivers are believing, Denny, that the direction of Michigan football is that we're going to throw it a little more. So I don't think the coaches are bullshitting these kids. We're going to throw the ball a little more. We're going to spread it out a little more. Still be a physical run game team. Bryce could be a big factor in why this is happening. But I just I don't want to get away from being, to be able to still have tight ends in your offense. I want an offense, Danny, because I've seen it as a coach. I want a weather-proof, rain-proof, wind-proof, terrible wind-conditioned offense. You got it?
Yeah.
I want an offense that, you
want them like the U.S. Postal Service, right, Scar? You want them. I want rain, wind, or snow.
Yeah, and I've seen it as a coach, and I never forget. The one game that really stood out for me from a college level. I have many examples in high school, but when Michigan State went and beat Urban Meyer's highly ranked team in that monsoon that one day. I don't know if you remember that game. It was terrible conditions, raining, windy, terrible. And Urban Meyer's in that 4-wide offense, and D'Antonio was just stuffing the shit out of his run. And D'Antonio was running his 3 tight ends, and at least he had somewhat of a chance to move the football. And Michigan State ended up winning that game on the road at Ohio State. You remember that game?
Yeah, I remember that Urban Meyer only gave the ball to Zeke Elliott like 5 times. That seemed like a pretty stupid thing to do.
He was trying to do things, and then bottom line is the offense was terrible with crummy weather conditions. So Sharon Moore, he knows what he has to do. You have to have a delicate balance between being an all-weather offense and having the capability to do it, but also being able to spread it out and utilize athletes and put defenses in conflict, because by spreading the field vertically and laterally, and horizontally. So it's definitely happening, Danny. I think with the recruiting of all these receivers, that tells me that is a legitimate direction change. It's going to be subtle, though. It's not going to be, and I want it to be subtle. I think, and Sharon Moore is smart enough to do that too, because I'm thinking I see how he's thinking. We're going to be a subtle change to a little bit more 3 wides at times, maybe 4 wides at times, but I just think that's happening with our program.
Well, they've already got 3 wide receivers committed. You mentioned Travis Johnson. You watched his film. They got Zion Robinson and Jaden Pyle out of Texas, and then they were going for a 4th, and he was the most highly thought of in terms of rankings, Calvin Russell. And Calvin Russell made his decision on Saturday night, and it ended up being a little bit bizarre. It was supposed to be 9 o'clock, and I'm there at 9 o'clock. John's there online at 9 o'clock. Everybody's there, and it looked like Calvin Russell rented out. I don't know how I guess he's 17 years old, but it looked like he rented out a big nightclub. I mean, he had flashing lights and everything, but they're like, no Calvin Russell. And I don't know, what was a half hour. I checked back and I'm like, oh, what's going on? Maybe he's got cold feet. Something happened. It was Michigan. Syracuse was there. Maybe there was some late offer coming in that he couldn't refuse. But Russell ends up pledging to Syracuse, of all places, to play football.
That guy's a recruiter over there, man. And maybe they got some money but he's a damn good recruiter. He's building something there at Syracuse.
Yeah, it is the one part for people that complain about NIL and the money and everything else. And you do have a school like Syracuse, if they put it together and they target one guy and say, hey, let's really just build around this player, whatever, you're trying to get people to obviously show up as well to your games. And they made a run at Calvin Russell. Antoine's saying they're not overspending for no damn wide receiver after they already had.
I'll tell you what, Antoine, I understand that logic, but look at Ohio State. Jermaine Super Freak, he's a factor, man.
Yeah.
Number 4. I don't want to defend that dude, man, because when you're defending Ohio State, and that's the kind of game you hope you have windy, crummy weather conditions when you play Ohio State. But if I'm defending Ohio State, I better know where the hell number 4 is all the time. My whole defensive scheme, I better know where the hell he is, because he's a problem, man. He's tall, he's athletic, he's fast. So yeah, I get it. You don't want to pay those guys, but you get a freak like that, he can be a problem.
Yeah, they've got 20 or so recruits right now, but for me, Michigan, I would give them an A with how they played their hand so far and who they brought in. But because of NIL and because of what Michigan is sitting on, the ability to go out there, this thing isn't done. You can get to late November, and I wouldn't count, Calvin Russell. I know the people's feelings are hurt right now because that was a tough one. You had the whole day. It was a holiday weekend. It felt like if Michigan got Russell, that it almost felt like they were going to win a football game there. It was like a regular season game. It went the other way, and it was a punch in the gut. Kind of felt like you forgot what it was like to lose. But I'm not counting Michigan out if they get to November and they're looking at their class and they might just say, look, call Russell up, call him up, tell him, we'll bump it up a little bit. I mean, if it ends up going down like that, who knows? But I think that they will, whatever they end up with in July and August, and then through they're at the end. You're a major player. That's when you can, start pushing people around again. So I think they're in a great spot. They've been doing a great job.
Who was the legendary philosopher, Danny, that said it ain't over till it's over? Was that Yogi Berra?
No, Yogi Berra was actually that was Yogi.
So you're right. Let's see. We don't know.
Yeah, you see a lot of I sent you a link to the kid. Texas Tech is out there apparently putting some money down. They got Ojo. They were able to get him, and then they're pulling in not the number one recruit for this year, but for the next year they got a commitment there. So Texas Tech, somebody's involved there saying, "Hey, we're trying to get some players, and we're going after it." Same thing like with Syracuse, but I'm not counting Michigan out of the flip game. I think that there'll be one or two guys that are on this roster right now, maybe three, that will flip out of Michigan, and but Michigan will go out there and flip 3 or 4 guys themselves. So yeah, you're going to have your 20 and whichever ones you like, but then the flip game's happening. And
also, Danny, some of these guys, I wonder what role these guys are going to play 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 football games. Some of these kids that are highly recruited. And then you wonder if some of them are going to underperform. Maybe some kids that already have offers, and guys are going to say and start backing off. And then you're going to see other guys that right now are looking at 3 stars, and all of a sudden they played 3 or 4 high school football games, and they're like, wow, that kid really improved. You follow me?
Yeah.
So I just wonder what role going through a season, moves people's boards up and down, where they say, okay, I see how you looked after your junior year, but guess what, man? We're not picking up the phone because we're not liking what we're seeing early on in this season. But we got some other dude over here that we didn't think was all that good, and he grew 2 inches. He went from a 3-star to a 4-star. So I think some of that stuff is also happening too.
For sure. Your draft board, whatever it's sitting right now, or the recruiting board, it's a fluid situation. Whatever intelligence you get now, it could be a camp that you're taking a look at. But if you're going and the high school season has started, you see 2, 3 games and you have the film and you see something on film, yeah, you better adjust your board one way or the other. The money's going up, money's going down. This thing just continues on.
John makes a point here. The kid that did it at a club and picked Syracuse, glad he did. We don't need that at Michigan. That's an interesting point. I wonder if there's a correlation between the guys that do the big dramatic reveal and then the guys that are just kind of low key. I wonder if there's a correlation on how productive they are in their career. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's kind of interesting.
No, I mean, that's a fan that, sure. See, I don't even know. I said it was a club. That's what it looked like. It might have been. So, but, it could have been, his high school, and they just did up a corner like it was a club. And, I haven't been to the club in a while, so I don't even know what a club looks like. But I don't know. Hey, there's some guys back in the day, like, Deion Sanders. I mean, there were always people like, we wouldn't want, that kind of guy. Hey, 5 years ago, Scar, when a guy transferred from a school, there were a lot of fans that said, we don't want a guy that doesn't want to stay committed to a school. And, but you didn't hear anything when Bryce Underwood, I mean, like, flips are happening all the time. Flips go on, they're good for you, but if they leave, it's like, that kid wasn't committed. That's just part of it. Let's just have a little fun with it. I
understand.
I don't think it matters if a guy, throws a parade and he's up at the club and he's 17 years old, or if somebody's sitting out in front of his church. I mean, I'm not reading anything into that. But hey,
okay, I'm just wondering what people thought.
Yeah, there might be some people that are right with you.
Antoine wants a linebacker. Yeah, I don't know what we've done in that area. I think we probably could. I don't know. Do we have one? I don't know if we have one signed in that area, but
yes, they do.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, they flipped a linebacker from SMU named
That's right.
Markel Dabney, but he's up in his profile, so that's good for somebody like Dabney.
Yeah, but the big thing that I'm seeing, Denny, is that the recruitment of receivers, good receivers that are highly recruited receivers, and then you want to see are we still recruiting tight ends? So that'll tell you something about what they're thinking as a program.
Yeah, how many wide receivers will Michigan want to go after at this point when you already have three? To me, and this is from just straight up Go Blue, is saying that they should go after Samson Gash, who apparently that Michigan State just landed, and he's talking about the kid running a 10-4. Well, Michigan had, if it's the same Gash that Michigan a couple years ago had, they would certainly have those connections there. Michigan just might not have room. That they still have, when you're looking at it and you're looking at their recruiting board. I put a couple of names up there, but I would still think that Sadler from Cass Tech would be pretty high, would be on Michigan's radar, and they would be looking at number one kid in the state. And he's delayed some of he's got some stuff going on that whatever, but now that Michigan lost out on Russell, I would think if there was going to be a wide receiver, it would not be Gash. But again, if they strike out on all of this and they get to November, they might just grab a big bag of money and say, well, now we're ready to come in and grab a guy back.
Yeah, I really like Sadler. I've talked about him. So, yeah, you're right, Danny. A lot of time, a lot of guys up and down. Decisions are not made yet for a lot of guys. So,
but no, if Michigan gets Hyder, the running back out of Virginia, then this isn't this. They get an A right now. They get an A plus. You're not going to be able to do any better than that. Plus, they'll be in position because we know they have. I'm making kind of light of just being dropping a bag late in the game, but they will have the resources, and they will be, I would think, targeting a few players late to see, okay, now it's all said and done, and let's get a cherry on top here late. But these are some of the guys. Hyder's the one that I think that there's no must recruit unless you say Underwood was last year, but Hyder's the one from day one that they've wanted. So he feels like he's a must recruit. The rest of these guys. Gerald's this defensive tackle. They don't really have a defensive tackle that's in this class, and you like to have a balanced class, but you have the transfer portal, so you can always go there. But so they'll look at a couple defensive tackles. Gerald's out of Georgia they want, and then there's two more linebackers that they're keeping tabs on. Abrams is committed, but they'll look to flip him. And this Forkpaw, I liked how he looked. I just saw a picture of him, and I liked how he looked. So I'm still there with them. Any other thoughts on any of these guys?
Just we're a national program, man. We're having good success. We're taking kids and getting kids in Texas and Virginia and beating Georgia for guys, beating Ohio State for guys. So there's momentum and there's confidence.
I don't know. Ryan's talking about he's concerned with the offensive line. That's for you're talking about this upcoming season, Scar? Should there be any worry about Michigan?
No, I think we have a lot of good players there. I think we have eight, maybe 8 guys that could start. We're going to look at some more film today. I'm feeling pretty confident with we recruited good players there, man. We got to got our center back, got our guard back. Their 2 tackles. The Sprague started a game against Alabama. Link started 8-9 games.
12
yeah,
games.
So there's only one position open that everybody else is, and then there's a lot of good players battling for that other position. So I think Sprague looked pretty damn good in that game against Alabama. I'm not worried about our offensive line.
I'm not worried about Sprague, or I'm not worried about any of the interior.
No, I'm not worried about Gio.
If I was going to be a little worried, Scar, I would worry about left tackle. I don't.
Listen, Link. I'm bigger on Link than a lot of people because I saw him do good things. He had the most important block against that win against Ohio State. Sprung Mullings. So
did he?
He'll be a better player this year. He'll be a much better player. He's a year older, stronger. faster. He's going to have more confidence. He's going to be a better player this year. And we brought some good transfers in. So those guys are all battling to push Link, and then they're battling for that other guard, the right guard position. But I think we're locked in with Sprague. And then the center is, he started 5 or 6 games. I mean, they switched off early in the year, and Crippen he'll be better. He'll be a 5th-year kid. I'm not. Denny, it's all about quarterback, man. It's just quarterback. Let's what the hell's going to happen there, man? And that's like the big question. We got running backs that can run and they're tough. We got tight ends that'll block and catch. I think our receivers are going to be good enough, better. Tight ends will be physical kids. Defense is locked and loaded. Kicker's good. Long snappers are good. What are we going to do at quarterback? What did Keene do? Can we count on Keene? What the hell did he do? If not, then we go with Bryce. Why did we bring in Garcia? Why did we bring in Garcia? So bringing in Garcia, Danny, tells me that Keene is either still screwed up, his arm, whatever the hell he hurt. I don't know what he did. Why the hell are they bringing that kid in?
But, depth. I think is going to be baptism by fire what
the hell you need him for? You got Jaden Davis, you got Keene. So I don't know.
Well, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did that, even if they felt like that Keene was coming back and he was fine. They also are sitting around last year and thought, oh, we'll be all right. Tuttle's coming back. He's good to go. I mean, Davis Warren, who knows what they see Davis Warren standing over there on the sideline with a wrap on his knee, and they probably say, hey, it doesn't hurt. Let's get as many as we can.
I know. I'm just wondering.
I don't mind that.
The need to go get him was that this kid has not fully recovered, or what's going on.
Maybe you might be right about that. I don't know. I don't know.
I'll be back to that bullshit. But hopefully Bryce is playing great. He did some good things in the spring. We'll look at more. And we'll go through this schedule. I'll give some thoughts on.
All right, let me put one challenge out there for you, because when it comes down to Link, I haven't watched every game, and his footwork. I've seen him miss some blocks and things like that, but he was a freshman, redshirt freshman out there playing on the right side. He looked like he struggled mightily, I would say, in the first half dozen games, but then he did look like he got a little bit better. But there's a lot of people that sit around and, they're, I would call them, I don't want to say scar wannabes, but they look at the film and they think what they have seen, they don't think Link is a tackle at all.
Denny, I understand. Let me just say this from a coaching perspective.
All right. Yeah.
That is very important that people have to understand. When you're unproven, it's whatever. You're easily thrown out if you haven't really played much football and you get in the game and you screw up. But when you start to play games and stack games and start football games and have productive games, and you made your offensive line coach look good, there's a little bit of credibility there. You're starting to earn credibility with your offensive line coach, with the head coach, who's an offensive line coach player. So I just think Link is earning credibility, and he's earned some respect from those coaches. So it's when you start to earn that respect from your coaches as a player, it's hard for a guy to put you on the bench. You know what I mean?
would like to, you're making a lot of good points there. I would like to go back to the Ohio State game, that 4th and 1 that you're talking about for Mullings, and see if Link really did come up with a.
No, the block I'm talking about was when he reached the big mouth kid, 33, and Mullings broke it loose. That's the block, Denny.
Okay.
That's the block.
All right.
That was the most important block in that football game, because that's kept that drive alive. He reached him. He pinned him in. Big mouth kid. What's his name?
Sawyer.
So that's you give me one player, one block, I'll take that guy. I'll take that block right there.
There you go. Now I'm ready. Now that
I'm just telling you, man, because
now you're right. I like it. That you were presented a challenge, and so you don't need any week. You're ready for it.
I listen, I understand. I saw some flaws in the kid, but at the same time, also you have to understand, Denny, this dude started like 6-7 games. So they've already made the investment. And they're going to start cashing in even more because he's a more confident kid. He's going to go play at Oklahoma and be a confident kid. He started in Columbus. He don't give a damn. You know what I mean? So you're going to put that kid on the bench? It's going to be tough as a coach because you're looking for a guy that ain't going to screw you when you go on the road in a big game like Oklahoma. You follow me? And some young kid, some unproven freshman or super recruit kid, you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, I'm listening to you and I'm nodding my head. You're making a lot of sense.
All right, Denny, I'm going to go through this because I want to go through this from a couple standpoint. Is like looking at our schedule, and if I don't know, and I'm just going on what I've seen so far from Bryce and what we don't know what's going on with King. We bring this other quarterback. I'm totally confident with our defense, our offensive line, our tight ends, our running backs. Okay, quarterback. That's where we're at with quarterback. And looking at this schedule. Okay, we're going to beat the hell out of New Mexico at home. So, and I've got 2 lamb chops in that first 3 games.
Yep.
So this is why I think the schedule is a factor on how I decide how I'm going to go forward with my football team if I'm Sharon Moore. Okay. If someone told me that I would be 4-1 at the bye, and one of those victories was against Nebraska, and Bryce Underwood started all 4 of those football games, I would take it in a minute. I would take, or 3-1. I would take 3-1 going into the bye, but one of them wins is Nebraska, a Big Ten game. Because, so if you're going to start this kid, I just assume do it right away. Do it with New Mexico. Get his first start in, build his confidence, and now we go on the road with that great defense. This kid has started every damn game in high school. He started 4 years of high school. He got all kinds of reps in the spring because the other kid was hurt.
And how big of a scar? Let me jump right in. How big of a deal is it if you're starting as a freshman in high school on a varsity team? I mean, that seems like a pretty big
huge.
deal.
That's big.
That seems like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's big. He has started his maturity level. It's like what I'm looking at is the maturity level, the physicality, what he's being asked to do it's very similar to what he did in high school. So there's not a big stretch, and the RPO game, throwing these routes. He's a 4-year starter. He played at Ford Field in a championship game. So I'm just thinking about you start the kid a home game, New Mexico. You have his confidence. We go to Oklahoma. You have a good game plan. Simplify things. Count on your defense. Have a run game. Let's outcoach them. Let's just play within our system. We could win the football game. Then we beat the hell out of Central Michigan. But I want to beat Nebraska. But also looking at this schedule, Danny, there's a couple things that jump out at me too that probably people don't think about that I do as a former player and coach. Oklahoma is on grass. That's a factor. It's a factor. USC is on grass. It's a factor. You don't play on grass a lot. It matters. Michigan State is on grass. Okay. That's 3 games on grass. And guess what other game is on grass, Denny? We're playing frickin' Northwestern at Wrigley Field. That game could be on a muddy, wet, nasty grass field at Wrigley. So we have 4 games on grass. That's a reason I like this schedule, that you want to get acclimated to that, because people say, well, what the hell's the difference? Well, you're not getting out of your breaks as quick. When there's grass footing it's not as good as turf. You got it, Denny. There's sometimes it's just different, period. So I like the fact that we have 4 games on grass. So I would like to, I guess I'm advocating, looking at the schedule, that it benefits starting Bryce Underwood. The schedule does, in my opinion, because you have 2 games you're going to win that are home. It's a perfect scenario to get him ready. We want the kid ready to roll to go on the road to beat Nebraska. And And then if we're 3-1 at that time, the schedule sets up great. We've got Wisconsin at home. It'll be a well-coached team. We'll have better players but that's all I wanted to look at I wanted to just focus on those first 4 games, and it's kind of setting up an argument for Bryce Underwood, because if you're not going to start Bryce Underwood game 1, then that means you probably go with the other kid, because I'd rather play him and start him against New Mexico than make his first start against USC or frickin' Washington. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense. I want to point something out. You got it right, but this schedule that I have up there does not have an at Michigan State, and it should.
We're at Michigan State.
No, you're correct about that. You don't think about
Northwestern's at Wrigley Field, Danny. I might actually go to that one. It's at Wrigley.
Hey, that sounds like a great time to me.
Yeah.
Although it could get a little chilly, so I'm not sure about that part. But I think about when Michigan played TCU. Where was that game at? In Arizona? Tempe?
Indoors on grass.
Yeah, that grass. I mean, Donovan Edwards went slipping and sliding like around that first drive, and then he had another run where the grass seemed like it slowed him down. That seemed like
it's not a matter of they're playing on grass. We both have the same condition, but they're used to it. They play every freaking game there. We just we don't play every game on grass. You know what I mean? That's why
that seemed like it affected the TCU. I'm not saying that Michigan would have won that game. I'm saying that it looked like it was a little bit of a factor. That slippery sod.
It's something it's something of a factor. That's all I'm saying. There's a guy who we play every game on turf. So and how teams cut their grass. You're right. And people, I've seen it all in high school, Antoine, guys watering the field and you come in, you got speed and they got the grass is 6 inches long. But
do they have crowns anymore on the field, Scar? Or is that
everybody's a little different.
Okay.
But anyway, and also, is your practice field, the type of grass you have in your practice field, is it the same as Oklahoma's? But believe me, when you're talking about little things, especially if you're Danny, I firmly believe that based on the kind of defense we ran under Schembechler, we slanted our defense left, right. It's what we did. But I think that going to the Rose Bowls, playing at the Rose Bowl, and then we didn't have no damn grass to practice on in December. And I just think that those things were a factor, having played on it, because I think it affects your defense a little bit. The ability, the speed in which you're able to do the things, the philosophy of what Michigan did, slanting left, right, and you understand what I'm saying?
No.
You don't understand?
No, I do. I'm listening.
If you're just plugging gaps, but we were really reliant on speed with our defensive linemen, and I think some of that stuff is neutralized on grass.
Well, I'm looking. It's also at this point, Oklahoma has Bermuda grass that they'll be using, but also buffalo grass, which I have never heard of, but that they're saying is mostly for a residential lawn. So no Kentucky bluegrass, ryegrass, tall fescue, but no, we're talking about. I don't know if you use. But Bermuda grass on their athletic field.
Yeah, so Danny, I guess the reason I wanted to put that up there, because the more and more I put my coaching hat on and look at what we're facing as a program, and I have those 3 games. Like, okay, if we don't beat Oklahoma, but I'm starting a fresh. Why waste the New Mexico game on Mikey Keene? If I'm going to go with Mikey Keene, I'm going the whole damn year with him. And then Bryce is going to work in like JJ. We're going to do it that way. You know what I mean? You're going to do one of 2 things. You're going to work it like JJ, Cade, right? And how we won a championship. You're going to do it that way. Or you're just going to say, to hell with it. I'm going with Underwood. And we're going to just go with it because of the way the schedule is. And if we lose to Oklahoma, so what? Let's be ready. Let's have 3 starts under his belt. Go on the road and let's win at Nebraska. So that's how I would look at it.
I think that's how they're going to look at it. I think unless Underwood doesn't have I don't know what his grasp of the playbook unless he falls apart when they get to fall camp. I don't anticipate any of those things happening. So I think he's going to be the starter. I'm with you. I'm listening.
Yeah, and Denny, what we listen, we just saw the spring game. We're going to look at some more film here in a minute, but these guys are seeing a hell of a lot more than us. So if it's close, if the competition is close, and Bryce does some things better than these other guys, you go with the young guy, man. You go with the young guy.
Agreed. Well, as we get ready to watch some film, we want to thank Quick Cut, QWIKCUT, Video and Analytics. Quick Cut, your place to store, share, and analyze game film like Scar. So that's the way we want to go about it. And we're ready to go and take a look at it and how it's going to look.
Remember how Scar got all excited about just the easy stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is the easy stuff. He throws it over his head, and this is a wasted down, 1st and 10, man. I mean, come on, man. It's just playing catch, hash mark to hash mark, throws it over his head. This is the stuff that scares me. If it's 1 out of 20, okay. So I don't want to see that. So, let's do that. Bobby Kanka is going to be a player, 99. And we're doing things here. And again, this is stuff that with Bryce, hopefully we put this defense in conflict, Denny. We put that ball in the gut. Let's make the defense have to honor all this over here. Quarterback run here, pass here, conflict. I don't remember seeing this exact type of scheme with last year. I don't know if this is a chip thing. This looks a little different. Anyway, we want to have conflict with the defense having to honor quarterback run. We got to be able to complete these passes, these little bullshit dink passes, so they respect it. But Kanka is making a play here, coming off a block. And then you got white shoes coming up. Eldreddy, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, this dude will come up and run support, man, right here with the white shoes. So he's if he covers people, he definitely come up and tackle. But I like this play by Kanka. Denny, I don't want to make no comparisons. People try to always compare and this, that, but this is like good stuff for a kid that might be 17 years old. He's right here. He's punching. He's punching in between the guard and the center and the guard. He's got to play double team. He's punching between two players, playing at the line of scrimmage, and now he comes off it. He throws the guard away and that's hard to do. That's Mason Graham type stuff. You see it?
Yeah, he's not getting pushed back.
He's not getting pushed back, and then he's making a play. So this is like good stuff. That's a kid that might be 17 years old. So that's very encouraging for a young kid. This coverage might be what we used to call robber coverage, and Bryce doesn't read this well. I don't think we're pass protecting. Oh, we do pass protect pretty good here. Denny, who's this right tackle here? Can you see that number?
Let's see.
Because he does a good job. This guy works an inside move, spin move. He pins him in. But Underwood's got to read this linebacker. See, Bryce has to read this linebacker, and he's
that's Ben Roebuck.
He does a good job pinning that edge player in. 88 is anyway. This linebacker does a good job jamming and coming back into his route. And I think, again, this is a coverage. I think we used to call it. It's not 3 deep. It's not 2 deep. It looks like 3, but then you let this guy come up and break on things and work into. See, he's breaking up like he's not a third player. That's probably in the old Wink. We ran that back in the day, and I'm sure Wink has got all the same stuff we ran. But Underwood's got to read that better. All right, we got a full screen.
Yeah.
Denny, if you were to show me this film, and I was not at the game, not at the scrimmage, I was there, but if you were to show me this film, I honestly can tell you, and I would bet this, that Scar, based on formation and splits, let me look at down and distance, and the formation and then the split and then the stances.
That's a run.
That I would be 90% be able to figure out run or pass. You understand that?
Yeah, because of the backs and where those
three
tackles are lined up.
Down and distance, formation, and then the stance. Now, this one is like, anyway, I firmly believe I would take that bet. You know, I'm a gambler. I would take that bet, and that's not good. That's not good that I can figure that out based on down and distance, formation, and stance. So this.
Well, that's like, also something you can clean up, right? If they're hearing,
yeah, but they fool me here in a couple plays, which I liked.
Oh, okay.
So this is not. We're not blocking this play right. We may have a mental mistake here. So we're pulling our center, Denny. We're pulling our center here, and we don't block it right. Our right guard, I think, is at fault. So we don't block, and the linebacker gets a run through. We don't seal that gap. So if you're gonna pull your center, okay, we're gonna pull our center here this way to the left. That means this guard, these guys got to seal this gap somehow, and it's either and I don't know who to blame because I don't know who's making the call. You know, is it the guard? It looks like to me that it should be the guard should seal in here, the tackle should seal inside, but they don't do it. The guard blocks out on the 3 technique. The tackle blocks out, and the linebacker runs through and kills the play. You see this?
Yep.
It's that is a total mental mistake. This has got nothing to do with talent. This is a total mental mistake. It's got nothing to do with talent, and this is how you get beat. So I don't know who made the mistake. I don't know how they're coaching it. You know, Denny, when I would look at this when I was coaching, I would tell my coaches, like, you know, what's going on here? Is it the kid or is it the coach? Because sometimes it's the coach, the position coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He might not have repped it right. He didn't teach it right. I don't know the answer to that. I could rip on the kid, but again, 97 is a mystery to me. What the hell? How do you say his name?
97 in blue. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah. Chibi Anwunah.
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay. Anyway, this dude.
Anwunah.
Okay, this guy. Every time I watch this kid, either at practice or whatever, he's smashing dudes, and I just wonder why he's not in the. You know, I look at him play. You see how he takes this kid and just manhandles him.
Yeah.
You know, it's like every time I watch this kid, he's throwing dudes around. You know, that's like a physical bull rush. You know, I have Beagle circled too because I just wonder where he is on their chart, what they think of him. But I always see 97 hammering dudes, and I'm wondering why he you know, what's slowing his. I'd like to be in the defensive lineman's coaches meeting with Wink and the coaches to say why isn't this kid playing? You know what I mean? I guess that's just my question because every time I seem to watch him, he's the kind of kid that maybe if he doesn't play, he transfers to Purdue and he has a great year, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if he's got a year left. He's a senior.
Yeah. Anyway, I just every time I watch him, I'm wondering what is he lacking? Does he make mental mistakes? I don't know. Anyway, I like this pass. Good stuff. Anyway, these guys are hustling, and I already talked about him. Why the hell? What is he lacking? Because, you know, he's a highly recruited kid. You know, Denny, I just tell you, people get all excited about recruiting, and I don't get all excited sometimes like other people. I do, but this stuff excites me because I want to see who the hell's developing, you know?
Sure.
Okay, so this is a formation that I would have been wrong on. It's 1st and 10. It's a good. They could run it or pass it from here. He's under center, and we're a heavy run formation here. We are a heavy 1st and 10 with this formation, with the stances here. See, the stances told me that this looks like a run play. Okay, but it ends up being it's a pass. So this is good that they fooled me here. You follow me?
Yep.
You know, so I want to see more. I want to see more formation, down and distance, stances, splits, etc., that are hard to figure out. This is why I like this. I like this. I can't figure it out. They got me fooled. Because coaches are looking at all that stuff. Who's rushing here? Let's see who's rushing the court. Who's rushing? Who's not? Is that 97 again in there? Or 70? I think that's 50. I think that's 57 here. 85. Got a couple guys wearing my number. Who's the receiver? 85, Denny.
Logan Forbes.
Okay.
From Clarkston.
1st and 10. Again, 97. I like 57 and 64 here. Who are those guys? I like the center here.
And 57 in Mays, or what are we? 57 and 64.
Yeah, 57. I like their double. I like their block. I'm seeing a little more physicality out of the tight end, 83. What the hell's his name again?
Zach Marshall.
Marshall is showing a little more physicality.
74, 64, 53.
Damn it. Let me run it back. I want to point their freaking name out.
All right.
And again, you look at 97, Denny. Let's just watch 97 right here.
I'm going to watch him.
Watch what he does to this dude. He just stuffs him and comes off. You see how he stuffs this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's good defensive line play. These other guys are getting knocked off the ball. Why ain't that kid playing? And then you look at the center and right guard. So 64 and 57.
Is the long snapper.
Maybe they move 57 to offense. It looks like Moten.
Right. I've got a 57. I've got a 57 on the blue team, but not on the Mays team.
And then Kavalarkis, 64. Anyway, these are young guys, so maybe they're. Yeah. Anyway, I like the double team, and they get what they got to get, and I want to see Marshall show more physicality, and he's showing it at times. 88. I like the punch in the pass rush. '88 again is Lupard. He's a true freshman, right? Denny, he's a true freshman?
No, he's a sophomore.
Well, he was a highly recruited kid, right?
He was. Yeah.
Okay, he's a young kid. He's like, it's like, where's this kid gonna? This is showing me punch. He's going inside of Marshall there. Anyway, you just wonder, when are these guys going to blossom? He might have a great summer and blossom. I just like the punch. I like a guy that's doing something there.
Yeah, he made a play or two in this game.
He's just raw. He hasn't played enough.
Yeah.
His technique is not the best. I don't like this. Is a mental mistake, total mental mistake. I don't know where the hell the linebacker's running to, and then they got nothing there. This is a mental breakdown. It's like, what the hell? Why is somebody screwed up? Why is the linebacker? The linebacker should be right there. See it, Denny?
Yeah.
So, you got to read the mesh point. Everybody should be reading the mesh point. The whole defense, unless you're in man-to-man coverage, which screws you don't see the quarterback, but that's what's good about zone. Everybody should be reading that mesh point. Is the quarterback keeping it? Is he giving it to him? Is he throwing it? But this guy's running over here, and I don't know what the hell that is.
Does he think he's got that back out of the backfield?
Yeah, it's a mental breakdown, Danny. Somebody screwed up. Is it him? He should be sitting right in here until he clears. He should be sitting right here where he is until he clears run or pass with the quarterback. he should be now, boom, hitting that thing right there. He's running out here. So somebody's jacked up. So I think that's all I had for today. Danny, just a little taste. 97 is a mystery to me.
Chibi.
His name again, man. I got to get his name. Chibi
Anwunah.
Chibi Anwunah. He's a mystery because he does so many good things, and then I can't figure it out. I wish if I were you, when you go to a press conference and Wink is there, or Terrell Moore is there, do they take your questions?
Yeah.
Say, hey coach, me and a real smart guy, we've been watching your spring game, and we see number 97 looking like a real player. What's the deal with him? Why hasn't he not contributed more? Ask that question.
And Sharon, or if it's Wink, will say, he's competing. We like him, And then
I know.
I remember last year when someone asked about Ike Anwunah, which is close to Chibi Anwunah. I mean, these guys, both of them have similar type names, but Sharon he couldn't talk enough about Ike. Oh, he's been somebody that he's rooted for since day one. He loves his family. I mean, he just went on and on and on about him. And then, they need him play for. And you see that. It's tough. I guess it's tough getting in there and getting in the too deep. I do want to point one thing out.
I understand. But looking at this film, this kid, every time I see him, I watch him.
I'll ask about him.
Playing at the line of scrimmage. He plays tough at the line of scrimmage. He rushes the quarterback. He's big and athletic, and I just wonder what the hell is keeping him from getting on the field. Why we haven't heard his name more.
Believe me, once August comes around, they'll be sending Espo out there. They'll be sending Wink out there. And if it's Sharon, one of those three guys, that'll be an opportunity to ask those guys. When you self-scout and you watch them, and then you said, you sometimes they're doing it to try to – they're looking up in the press box and they're going to run a counter off that. They're just waiting for you to cheat. I just recall going back years, I watched one season with a former quarterback at Michigan named Michael Taylor. And Taylor could diagnose many quarterbacks. They're looking out there, they're diagnosing everything. Taylor would say, here's the run to the right again. And then here's to the left. And I'd say, well, he said every time they go in motion, they run to the side that they're going in motion. And I said, it can't be that easy. He said, I don't know. We've watched 4 or 5. We watched like 4 or 5 games, and every single time.
Well, that's
and so
terrible.
I asked Lloyd about it, and Lloyd said, well, we're waiting to see if, we'll run something. But then you know what happened? I talked to him. The very next game, we're sitting there, and they run the motion. We're like, oh, it's coming to us. They went off to the left, and they gained like 20 yards, and I'm thinking,
Yeah. Well,
I said, MT, that's your.
Yeah, that's good.
Coach.
Michael Taylor. I played with Michael. He was a smart guy, and when you coach defense, you see all that stuff and play it. You're looking for that little tell, and the great teams, their stances are the same. They're running pass out of every formation, and they're not predictable. So that's it. That's important.
Let's get some feedback in here. Antoine was liking the film Go Blues, adding Rouse to a linebacker. AJ saying old school cheating, like letting the grass grow. He talked about the Boston Garden, never turning on the air conditioning you get some old school home advantage. Boston Garden, they would have dead spots on the floor. And when the Lakers would come in, they would use the longer nets. So the ball would wouldn't go through it as fast. Like you got a split second. They were
Red Auerbach, man. Yeah, he did. That's what they did, man. You're right, Antoine. Yeah, I seen it all, man.
The Twins, when they played at the Metrodome, used to turn on the air conditioner. So the stream would blow out when their team was up, and then they would shut it off when the Tigers would come up.
Yeah, I played one game. I'm coaching, and it rained. We had speed. This other team didn't have much speed, and I'm okay. I want a nice fast track. It rained the night before, and we pull up in the bus. The sprinklers are on, Denny. The sprinklers are on. And the guy tried to tell me, oh, we want to keep the dust down a little bit. I said, it just rained, man. And then the athletic director said, well, it was a timer on it. The guy forgot to. So I heard two different bullshit excuses. Crooks, man.
Hey, well, no, that's some gamesmanship.
I mean, talk about, film. And I had dudes filming me for 25 years ago in the press box as a defensive signal caller. We talk about Connor Steins filming the coordinators and filming the sidelines.
Yeah.
Shit, that stuff's been going on forever, man. Filming coaches. That ain't new.
Okay.
Analyzing, what's your signals? This, that, whatever,
Sure. Bagel and Polly, Scar has talked up Polly, and he mentioned Bagel.
Yeah, it's very important time for both of them. They did some good things in the spring. And they've got to have great summers, and then early camp, they just got to be out there cracking dudes, man. Give the coaches belief that we got a lot of competition to get into that 2-3 deep, man.
Yeah, they got the two transfers, Payne and Williams, and they got Benny. There's 3, and then Pierce.
Oh, yeah,
There's 4. So now you're starting to how can these guys get in there? Well, it's going to be tough if you have those 4 rolling.
Benny and Ike are going to be our 2 starters in there.
And then you're talking about Ike.
That's my opinion. Benny and Ike I think they're better than the 2 guys we brought in from what I've seen on film.
Hey,
so
let's go.
Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. The long summer, guys. Maybe didn't have. I'm just going by this one game, man. You're right, Antoine. Heavy rotation, man. You keep guys healthy. You keep guys fresh. You keep an enthusiasm. One of the great things about rotation. And there's so many good things about playing a lot of guys, Denny, is it keeps you healthy, but it keeps the overall attitude of the team better because you got more guys playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my day, the second string guy wasn't playing. So you got a lot of pissed off dudes. Now, second string and even some of them third guys get reps. Coaches are just smarter. Rotate them in. Keep players playing fresh, not tired.
And Oklahoma on what is that? September the 6th. That's going to be
hot as hell there.
Yeah, even at 7:30 at night. It's going to be pretty hot.
Oklahoma, it's going to be hot. You better have 6 inside D linemen that can rotate, 4 edge guys that can rotate and rush the quarterback. You better have, and we got 4 linebackers that can play now. I think the coaches feel comfortable because that used to bother me with. Early on, some of those guys didn't like, McDonald. They didn't like rotating linebackers, and I understand it because those guys are your quarterbacks on defense sometimes. You know what I mean? You could, if you don't have the right mental guy in there, it could screw you up. But hopefully, we have 4 guys that can rotate in so everybody's playing fresh.
Yeah, when you have
inside backer,
right? Yeah, I was gonna say you get somebody like Grant and Graham. You don't like taking those guys off the field very much.
Well, they're better players though, Denny. When you do get them out,
no, I hear you.
You don't want them playing tired.
No,
I've seen games. There was a game. I think it was USC. I just remember we were struggling because those guys were playing tired. You can't be afraid to rotate guys, man.
No, it's like hockey, shortening up those shifts. Those hockey coaches will tell you nothing good happens after 30 seconds.
Your best players, you got to save them. You got to, those reps that you keep them out in the first half, it pays dividends in the second quarter and the fourth quarter.
I'll buy it. Yeah. I'm in. Scar, great job. Can't wait to talk with you next week.
All right, Big D. Go blue.
Here he is. The Scar, the telestrator.